damn straight. Decided to try Endeavor. So quiet. Nice. Good. Good. Glad that something has changed. Yeah, hold on. No. Let me see. Did playing Helldivers 2 yesterday adjust my microphone? It sure did. How's that sound? Is that better? Is that more normal? Hello? Much better. Okay, yeah, it was set to 65 for some reason. Very fun. I've got a solution for you. See me after class. I'll keep that in mind. Welcome, everyone. As you can see, possibly, we've rebranded. It was always going to be a problem, the fact that my username was designed in such a way as to look like what it wasn't. So I figured, rather than continue to live with that problem, it was probably about time to just try and fix it. This was mainly spurred on by a couple of things. One of which was Rodney. Thank you, Rodney. Helping me figure out what the fuck to do. Feel like you could have just gone for Jelly Chan or something like that. Well, dashes aren't allowed. The only non-alphanumeric character that is allowed is an underscore. And every variation of Jelly Chan or something like that is already taken. Right? Can't you just take a name if they don't use it for 360 days? I found out. No. Apparently. Well, I guess, if I'm understanding it correctly, the only time when you can essentially take a name that another account is using if they haven't used it in a while is if you make partner. You get a one-time name change where you can go in and assuming, or rather, so long as the account isn't like an affiliate or partnered themselves, and they haven't been used in a while. Maybe Jelly Broadcast or Jelly Broad for short. No. See, here's the problem. You're not recognizing the wordplay on display. Okay? It's Jelly Channel like Twitch.tv, like a TV channel, and then Jelly Channel like Jelly Chan. So I had to keep that. I had to. So here we are. Chandelier, yes. The other thing that spurred me on, which, thank you very much, Al-Shaikh, I believe, Al-Shaikh777, for the tier 1 sub, greatly appreciated. The other thing that spurred me on is, as you may have noticed by my recent appearances on Joe and Mouse's streams, I'm probably going to be collabing with them and others a lot more frequently. And as it turns out, the problem of having your username be difficult to correctly shout out is a lot more prominent whenever you actually have to get shouted out on a regular basis. So, you know, I did need to fix that. Why not Jelly Channel 386? If I can be completely honest, there's something about the naming convention of having the name and then the numbers afterwards that just feels unprofessional to me. And I'm not exactly a professional, right? But I don't see the problem. Okay, well, alright, C806256. Alright, it's part of your brand. Thank you very much. Alright, I can't exactly just take up the mantle like you have. Okay? Can't believe becoming popular spurred this on. Truly, you've changed. I really have, haven't I? Also, we are clearly a semi-professional streamer. If semi-professional means that people complain about you in Noja's VODs, then I guess so. You'll see me at the red carpet soon if that's the case. You should do like C8 does and think of a good molecular... I'm sorry, what is that? Think of a good molecular compound to name yourself after. Domac, coming from you, this feels like the setup for an implicitly threatening punchline. What's really funny is now the shoutout link on Joe's page is now broken. Here's the... I mean, I did change it on Mouse's stream, so we'll be rating Joe at the end of stream today, as per usual with Satisfactory Saturdays. So I'll let him know, and then it'll be put on the Trello, which means in about a month and a half it'll probably be fixed. It means people complain, but you don't make money. Exactly! Exactly! No money, more problems. It's great how it works out that way. Anyway, welcome to another installment Satisfactory Saturday. The Twitch Go Live announcement is not a joke. I'll be completely honest, I haven't played Satisfactory in a hot minute. Although, maybe it will appear as though we've gotten a lot done because we weren't here last Saturday. If you don't remember, last Saturday I was on Joe's stream reading Umineko with him. So we didn't do a Satisfactory Saturday, which means that we might have a little bit to catch up on. But I haven't really played that much, so it won't be that much to catch up on. Just wanted to say I loved your analysis on Joe's Umineko stream. Thank you! It was a lot of fun. I haven't gotten to do any, like, genuinely involved literary analysis in a group setting in over 3 years, I want to say. And playing Umineko, because I will acknowledge that it is a game, unlike my co-host, has made me realize, wow, that's probably one of my favorite things to do in the entire world. Sportscast bit was amazing. Sad Joe fumbled the ball on it. Well, hey, I mean, it's sports commentary. There's going to be a couple fumbles. You know? I think I've gotten too deep into the brain rot of witches and magic being an active choice to reject reality. I see it everywhere. Without love, it cannot be seen. I was thinking of it the whole last stream. Alright, so first, nothing has changed here, but we just need to come see our girl. Where is she? Where is she? Is she safe? Is she doing well? There she is. There she is! Or is that... Oh, that's red. No, there she is! There she is! Hello, Purple Truck Chen. How are you doing? Look at her go. Look at her go! Let's see. How's her dismount today? You got this, honey. I believe in you. You can do it. You can do it. Come on. You got it. Don't worry. Don't worry. You got this. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You got this? Okay. Redirect. Redirect. Ooh, okay, it's okay, it's okay. There you go, there you go, there you go. Oh, no, no. You're okay, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. There you go. All right. She's so talented, chat. She's so talented. The smartest, most hardworking girl in the world. She's so talented. I wonder if the, Nah. Unfortunately, we can't get the cool scenic shot. This highway was really fun to build. I hope I can find more excuses to use, cars and trucks and the like. This factory isn't really in operation, so it's mostly just been producing residual power, which is very nice, honestly. I think the last step that I need, now that I actually have aluminum production done, is I need to finish aeronautical engineering so that I can produce drones. And I can get some drones to deposit some aluminum casings, I believe? Yes, aluminum casings over here so that I can make turbo fuel ammo, and this factory will be complete. Until then, it's just this lovely, compact mess of belts and the like that I am oh so proud of. Hope I did a good job on this. I still really like the way that this dips down and goes back up. A lot of little splitter arrangements here that make me very happy. Very satisfying. Okay, where were we? Right. I never finished cooking whatever the hell was going on there. This place still needs, like, an aesthetic overhaul. So you find the factory to be satisfactory then? To some degree, yes. Let's launch back on over. Can we redirect to get over to where we want to go without landing in the Red Forest? Yes, we can. Alrighty. So, the aluminum starter factory is now complete. Let's check it out. I believe the last time that I was on stream, we were quite literally halfway done building it. In the sense that we had gotten production completed up to there, and then I had halted production because we needed to ship in copper. So we have our coal line here that I'm not going to follow because I just remembered that I never actually... Well, maybe I will follow it because I still need to fix up the train station at the end of it. So maybe we will follow it. And then we have the copper line. Can we talk about how you've never seen Star Wars? I feel like you watching that would feel like Joe did watching Twin Peaks. No. Here's the thing. I don't need to watch Star Wars, okay? The Stars War has already been relayed to me in many other forms, all right? I have seen a million other things do the Stars War and know full well that it is the Stars War. In fact, I have played the Lego Stars War, which is just the superior version of the text because it doesn't have any dialogue. So I'm fully familiar with the Stars War on a personal level, right? It's just that I haven't seen the inferior original version. One single war. That would be Dune rather than Stars War. Favorite clips of you in the club is the Witch Senate, you asking if Schrodinger's cat, is that Schrodinger's cat in lowercase lizard cream? Thank you. You can read the Mass Effect novels. Dominic, please don't put that evil on me. Please don't put that evil on me. Me and Joe already can't decide on what the first book we want to read is. You cannot force me back into the fucking clutches of Kai Lang by forcing me to read the Mass Effect novels. I refuse. You already sent me Kai Lang's email as a DM and made it cowgirl themed, okay? I refuse. Anyway, so we have this coming in to transport copper, and to be completely honest, this transports more copper ingots than will ever reasonably be used. Like, this will probably take, like, maybe a day, full real time of running before it gets through all of the copper that comes in one single shipment. So let's go through what's going on this production line. So, we've got our bauxite all the way up there, our pure bauxite node. Because you changed the name, we can't choose quality. Interesting. Howdy, the real decoy. Welcome. Doing good. Going good. How about you? So we've got our bauxite coming in. Apparently I decided to half put up walls and then stopped at some point. got our bauxite coming in, have our water coming in. Bauxite and water get processed into alumina solution and residual silica. In order to optimize the production, I don't actually use the silica for anything at all. So it just sort of travels all the way down the production line until it merges with a sink line at some point. I can probably, once I build more than just a starter factory, invest in like something that I can actually spend silica. What is silica even used in that I have? Let's see. Used in... Oh, wow. Just the two things, huh? Well, I guess if I get some alt recipes, I can find a use for it. But for now, it just sort of gets sunk. So, silica goes on the line. Alumina solution goes to a pipe into this refinery, along with coal from our shipment over by Coal Lake. And that gets processed into aluminum scrap and water. The residual water from this process gets piped back to the first two machines with a valve to ensure that none of the water coming this way flows inward and creates backflow issues that'll stop production. So this is also limited to not the full amount. So this is 120 and 120, 240. You need a total of 360 water to satisfy these machines, which means that until it actually gets to this step in production, it's not fully spun up. So it's self-sustaining in that way, right? So the residual water gets processed back to fully spin up the machines before it, which gets all of this in one nice little loop. Then, our alumina scrap gets processed into smelters using the pure aluminum ingot recipe. All of this is slooped. It does not need to be slooped except for the first two machines to run at full capacity. Once I build a larger aluminum factory, I will unsloop it. But for now, it's slooped. Actually, I think I slooped it just so that I could fill up this. Yes, okay. All right, we'll get there. We'll get there. For now, let me take out some of these sloops. Okay, thank you, thank you. Nice. In you go. In you go. Alright. So this is making a total of, let's see, 30 times 4. Alright, so it's making a total of 240 aluminum ingots, which are apparently themselves used in some materials, or some recipes, so I have them going on their own. But the aluminum ingots go down across the belt, and then they come to this smart splitter. Overflow goes up onto a sink line, or rather an end product line, and the regular goes this way into these two lines to get processed into all-clad aluminum sheets and aluminum casings. Now, all-clad is just pure aluminum, or no, casings are pure aluminum. All-clad is aluminum plus copper, which obviously necessitates that we bring in copper ingots from somewhere. So let's follow this line down here. We have two tracks running in parallel using this rail design that I got whenever I was making my plastic factory. They're going to run in parallel for a pretty long time. Go right underneath this little scenic arch. Looks quite nice. Cool thing about rails, if you didn't know, provided, of course, that you have power attached to one end of the train station. Is there some low latency on the stream? It's kind of looking like it's lagging a little bit. Anyway, provided that you have power attached to one end of the train station, rails themselves will carry power, which does make power conveyance pretty convenient, and also means that I can use something like this hover pack indefinitely, so long as I am near rails that are connected to power. It's not very efficient, mind you, but it is something that can be done. It's much faster to slide jump and then feather with a jetpack. Probably my favorite thing about the trains here makes making outposts so easy. Yeah, it's very convenient. Let's grab a little There we go. So, make it all the way over here, and then I've got a bunch of stuff that's slightly off-grid, but not enough that it annoys me into fixing it because I already set it up. We have our copper outpost. So, copper, aluminum, in. We have exactly one miner getting 240 copper ore. That copper ore is going down this way, getting processed. In it goes, and we've got, I believe, 16 refineries all set up with a pure copper ingots recipe, so that we can produce, I believe, a total of 600? 37.5 times 16. Yep, 600 total copper ingots per minute, which is far and away above the, I believe, 15 per minute required for an all-clad aluminum recipe, which means that at some point I should probably find something to do with all of this excess copper, because, you know, it is an untapped resource. I think what I might do is set up a computer factory here if I can, because we have also over here a Caterium deposit that isn't really being utilized very well, even though I've set it up. But we'll have to figure it out. You would love Greg Tech New Horizons. I have no idea what that is, but I'll take your word for it. Either way, we've got the copper getting processed. Water for the copper, pure copper. And then that copper gets transported. It's kind of like Satisfactory. Good to know. Good to know. I truly did not believe that I would love Satisfactory as much as I ended up loving it. It's been a very fun learning process. So, God, it's so cool to see that in the distance. It's so cool to see that in the distance. Except the big twist is that it's a bullshit Minecraft mod pack. Awesome. Nice. Cool. Somehow finding a way to get me back into Minecraft. Though my soul has resisted it for years now. My brain is too easily overwhelmed. I could never play that. That's exactly what I thought before I started playing it too. But I think... Well, does Satisfactory actually make it easy? I don't know if Satisfactory makes it easy or if it's just designed in such a way that my brain can actually comprehend it. Because I played Factorio, on stream no less, and really bounced off of it. But in Factorio's defense, I also didn't understand resource ratios at all, or the concept of, like, belts being able to carry a certain amount of a resource per minute in the slightest. So, that one's probably on me. Either way, copper gets transported all the way back here. Belt goes down, over, into the all-clad aluminum. And again, we're making 600 per minute. We are using 20 per minute. It would take a very long time for any of this to get used. Main question is, do you like mining ore in Minecraft? How core is that to your experience? I think, like, cave exploration is one of the core parts of any Minecraft gameplay. Am I wrong in thinking that? I feel like that's like it's in the name. There's mining and there's crafting. Obviously mining is central to the experience. Anyway. So we're making, how many is it? 60 all-clad and 120 aluminum casings. That's going over here to our final little resource processing plant. So we've got this line. Aluminum ingot overflow also comes through here, as you can see. So we've got a smart splitter. Right goes to the sink. Left goes to this shipping container. Or rather, right overflow goes to the sink. And then center output is purely aluminum ingots, which, as you can see, is fully saturated. So if we need aluminum ingots, got them fully saturated. Almost fully saturated for Alclad. I assume we are fully saturated for aluminum casings. Yep. So, that's the factory. In one big line. This is a fun one to build. I like the ratios that aluminum provides, since they seem to mostly be pretty simple, pretty easy to divide, at least in my head, but I'm also fucked up, and I thought that steel foundry ratios were nice, too. But there is something about looping some of the resources back to earlier parts of the production line that really tickles me. I quite enjoy that. Figuring out what to do with the byproducts in this game is really quite fun, I think. That was one of my favorite parts of oil production, was you have your main product that you are creating, and then you have just this residual resource that you have to figure out what to do with it. So it's a chore in that sense. But it's also very convenient in the sense that, like, I'm making power, but also I have a bunch of residual plastic that I can make. And so, as just a complete byproduct, I also have access to this other resource that I quite enjoy. Call me a large corporation during Pride Month, the way I'm trying to figure out how to utilize byproducts. +2. +2. It's a good one. Unfortunately, I'm not bi. So I can't fully appreciate this joke. Maybe if you go to Joe's stream. Tragically straight. Is that on my TV tropes page? Observe this chart someone made on Reddit for the process of refining platinum in GregTech. Sure, I guess the Boulder Fast Pass exists. Oh, what the fuck? Where does it start? I am uncertain. Oh, so we're really in the thick of it, huh? If you don't even know what's going on. Good lord. Okay. I have to assume it starts here. Because that's ore, right? Wow. Fuck me, sideways. This is not a good chart. This is not readable at all. Holy shit. Why would you do this? Ugh. Oh, I don't want to look at it anymore. I don't want to look at it anymore. GregTech genuinely needs, like, real-life chemistry and engineering knowledge? Oh no, is this like how Factorio is actually programming in disguise? I love the single line in the middle that does 2 90-degree turns from the top to near the bottom. It's an art piece reflecting the mental state of whoever made it. Are not all creations able to be described as such? Okay. Speaking of things that reflect the mental state of those who created them, let's figure out what exactly we're going to create. I'm just now realizing I need to tear this down. This hasn't been in operation for, like, ages. This was like this was my oil starter factory that was just making plastic and rubber. This hasn't been doing anything for forever. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. For now, it's always nice to have more Mercer spheres, so we'll take that. Ugh. Oh, what the fuck? Why? Why are they clean pipes? Where are my junctions? Pop, why did you do this? Should make a pretty house for Purple Truck Chan and her lesser sister. Her lesser sisters? What? Why are her sisters lesser? Don't be mean. What is this, Umineko? Fine, superior sisters. Also wrong! Also wrong! They're equal. No, they are lesser. Doubling down! Doubling down on it! That's fucked up! Okay, let's die real quick. Because we have some stuff to deliver. Here. I really have been neglecting the purpose of Slug Island. I'm not going to lie to you folks. I think that's the next big thing that I need to do is start on some attractions for Slug Island. I've been focusing too much on actually optimizing and getting the game done. And I just need to take a break and do some stuff that won't further the progress of the Fix-It Corporation in the slightest. I think that's the play, personally. Down there, I'm processing some sulfur into sulfuric acid. Eventually, I'm going to turn it into batteries if I can figure out what the hell I'm going to do with it. Give Purple Chan the biggest, prettiest room and stick the other two in a nice closet. This is just the bit that Pub and I did where we gave Rudolph the nicest stall on our Christmas factory. I refuse to do the same bit twice, unless I think it's really funny. So there's that. Going on over this way. I think it's really quaint how this winds the way it does. Alright. Coming over here, because we have a lot of resources to deposit. Oop. Oop. In you go. Although I think at this point they might start getting clogged here. I wonder if I should set up a sink here, or if it wouldn't really be worth it. I just don't use liquid biofuel as fast as I can, like, in the quantities that I can produce it. It's just, like, look at how much of this shit I have, and it's so fuel efficient. God, I forgot how slow Mark 1 belts actually moved. That's crazy. This is what I'm talking about, though. Like, this factory exists to make liquid biofuel here. And as a result of the way that residual stuff works, you know, we have our heavy oil residue. Like, we have this making its own casings just from the plastic alone, so it can package itself off of its own resources. We've got just, like, a little residual power, because why the hell not? And then we have this stuff to package all the biofuel. Turned into biomass. Bring it around town. Put it through the processor. Up it goes. In. Good to go. Packaged up. It's very satisfying once you can finish those loops. Okay, so let's see. I don't need coal. I don't need pretty much any of this stuff. Did I ever make Yeah, I make... It's to the point where I know I made some of this stuff. I just have no memory of setting it up anymore. It's been so long. Sort. In you go there. I should keep those computers. I haven't automated that yet. Put that in there. Haven't automated that yet either. Rubber we will never run out of. You'll notice we have 3 blue power slugs. Because our dimensional depot is completely full of blue slugs. We have saved so many of them. How would you sell this game to someone? I love it to death, but come work as a slave in my factory isn't a good pitch for my friends. I would certainly agree. That's not exactly the optics you want to be going for. And to be completely honest with you, I have absolutely no idea how you would sell this game to anyone. I don't know, it wasn't really sold to me. I was forced to play it by C8, who requested it as a stream game after I played Factorio. And something just clicked. Well, I guess, here's what I can say. The way that I always try to describe it, in order to explain what it is that makes it, like, tick upstairs for me, is... It's it's like a digital version of setting up a toy train set in your house, if that makes sense. There's just this delight that comes from putting all the pieces together and doing all the work to make sure that everything is in its right place, and then turning the power on and watching it go. Right? There is a satisfaction that comes from putting a thing together, even if it's not unique, and watching it function and knowing that you are the reason that it is functioning. Right? At least that's what it feels like to me. There's a very like childlike giddiness to it in that sense for me. That's the best pitch I've heard. Interesting. Interesting. I don't know how to feel about that, considering that I am not the primary demographic for factory games like this by a wide margin. So let's see, I came back here because now we have aluminum. Where is all clad? Take some of that. Aluminum casing. Thank you. Motors. We probably only have 150 in there. Is that right? Hopefully that'll upload quickly. Don't have to worry about it. I'm sure we can wait. And then I'm going to have to figure out how to make whatever this third resource is. Radio control units, which are going to force me to automate two things which I have really, really, really been holding off. Would this game work for someone who has never played factory games before? I had a little bit of experience with Factorio prior to playing this game, so I can't say for certain. However, as someone who never believed that they could enjoy the factory builder genre, this has been an excellent introduction to what it is about these games that makes them so appealing. I think it does a fantastic job, for the most part, which is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this case, at slowly introducing concepts and ramping up the complexity and technical difficulty of automation. So if you're looking for one that could be like, hey, maybe I'll dip my toes into the genre and see if I'm going to enjoy it, my only question for you is, are you more of an optimizer or are you vibes-based when it comes to how you like to play video games? Because if you're more of an optimizer, I would probably recommend Factorio first. And if you're more vibes-based, I would probably recommend Satisfactory first. Mostly because... How can I phrase this? Satisfactory has a lot of downtime in the sense of, like, you will be building a lot of the same structure. Even if you blueprint stuff, you will be building a lot of the same structure over and over and over again as you are setting up your larger factories. Right? Which is to say that, like, if you are a more vibes-based player and you care about how things look and you want them to look pretty and you don't mind taking the time to focus on the cosmetics of everything that you're creating, Satisfactory can be a very, sometimes even a zen-like experience, I would say. When you get into the zone, you're just sort of completely focused on making this model train function. Right? And maybe Factorio has some of that same appeal as well, and I just didn't understand it when I was first playing it. But Factorio doesn't have the same visual appeal that Satisfactory does. That's not to say that it doesn't have visual appeal in general. It definitely has a very charming visual aesthetic. I personally prefer Satisfactory's but, you know, Factorio is a very far cry from that. But Factorio is also set up in such a way that, like, you don't need to worry as much about how long it takes to actually build something, because you're working on a 2D plane where things are relatively easy to conceptualize the dimensions of. Rather than in Satisfactory where you're working in 3 dimensions and you've got to consider a lot of things spatially, Factorio, you just sort of build your bus and then you keep building forever in one giant mega factory that has offshoots of certain resources. Whereas in Satisfactory, at least in my experience, it's far more beneficial to build scattered, disparate factories that are specialized to design one resource. Let's see. Also an important factor, how arachnophobic do you think you are? Yes and no. That is actually another aspect that's important to consider with regards to the two of them. Factorio does include elements of, like, base defense and base repair in the form of biters. There's a lot of survival aspects to consider when you are playing Factorio that just aren't part of the consideration when it comes to Satisfactory. In Satisfactory, if I build something and I don't tear it down, it will never disappear. It will be there forever. Nothing will ever come in and destroy it, and I will never have to go and rebuild something because it has been damaged. There is no factory maintenance. But in Factorio, factory maintenance is part of the gameplay loop. Alright, in addition to building your factory, as you expand, pollution spreads, which will eventually reach nests of biters that will come and attack your factory if the pollution spreads to their nest. Right? And so in addition to building the factory, you also need to build fortifications and defenses for the factory in order to ensure that they don't come and destroy stuff. Which, me personally, I wasn't a big fan of. But again, take all of my experiences with Factorio with a grain of salt, alright? For 2 reasons. 1, it was my first factory builder, so I didn't have any idea what I was doing. Like, to the degree that I did not understand the concept of belts have limited throughput. Okay? The concept of this belt transports 60 per minute. This one does 120. This is 270. This is 480. This is 780. I did not grasp that concept at all while playing Factorio. It could be that it was not conveyed to me as well as it could have been. Chat did make me skip the tutorial, so maybe if you play the tutorial, it's a lot more overt about that. Is Satisfactory feminist literature? You know, get back to me on that in 3 to 5 Umi streams. Perhaps I can cook up some bullshit. I'm more about the fear factor of the stingers. I wasn't a super big fan of spiders before I experienced Satisfactory. Now I can look at cat PNGs without a slight fear. Maybe you meant now I can't look at cat PNGs without a slight fear. In which case, I would agree with you. Personally, I think that the cat PNGs are the more terrifying option of the two than just getting used to spiders. It's been a while since we visited the shrine. Offer our respects. Another thing to keep in mind is scale. Factorio can be beat in 6 hours if you know what you're doing, while Satisfactory requires a lot more infrastructure and grind. Yes, the biggest difference between the two of them is the time that is required to build. A basic iron factory in Factorio can be put up, if you know what you're doing, probably in like a minute. It is so much faster to set things up in Factorio than it is in Satisfactory. If I wanted to go and build an iron factory right now and make sure that everything is optimized and I'm producing resources at their optimal capacity, it would probably take the rest of stream. maybe 30 minutes or so, I would say. Right? Though, that's with the consideration of I would need to find an iron node, I would need to get power over to the iron node. There's a lot of things that add to the pre-build that add time as well. But the act of setting up a factory in Satisfactory takes time. Takes a lot of time. Which, me, personally, I enjoy that time. This, to me, is the best phrase that I can probably think is, like, a podcast game. This is the kind of game that you put on, and then you have something playing in the background as you are sort of mindlessly picking away at a task so that you can feel like you are doing some work, you're getting a job done, and you feel very productive while you are engaging in another hobby that doesn't require your full attention. And I really enjoy that. Second monitor content. Kind of, yes. It's primary monitor content that allows you to indulge in secondary monitor content. So, for me, I quite enjoy the fact that factories take quite a bit of time to set up. That's something about the experience that I believe is a positive. If you were to talk to someone like Pub, who is much more interested in Factorio than Satisfactory, you would get the complete opposite answer, where he often finds it very tedious that he needs to spend so much time setting up very basic factories and getting them spun up. Whereas he's used to something like Factorio, where because of the blueprints and bot stuff that he set up, he can literally just set down entire factories with one click. Right? So it's a lot of those personal touches that make Satisfactory as appealing as it is to me. Because me personally, I like that I can just have something that I've built and it looks nice and it just exists there. Like this here, I love this factory. Portable Miner Mini Factory. This factory exists specifically just to make portable miners, which I could easily craft myself, but I had a recipe, and I just built this little factory. It is by no means optimized in the slightest, okay? The ratios are not considered at all. Main monitor daughter or second monitor son. Interesting. I'm going to have to go with a main monitor daughter, personally. Personally, I think that as a second monitor streamer, if I could have one of my children break into the upper crust of the Twitch viewing experience, I'd want that life for them. I'm not saying I'd be disappointed in a second monitor son, but if I am able to have one of my children reach first monitor status, I think that's what it's all about. I think that's what it's all about. Either way, I really like how this factory looks. Like, we'll go in, we'll see the guts. I've got a bunch of little stuff set up. Granted, it does have a lot of empty space down there, but don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. And then over here, we have all the iron. So, I haven't showed this one off in a bit. We're literally working with 2 impure iron nodes. So we're making very little. We've got 120 per minute. I could probably just do this with 60 even, and still have it be rather optimized. So that gets processed 1-to-1 in these smelters. So we've got 120 ingots going in through here. I love this little outside area. Splits off twice. Can I slide? I don't think I can slide in there. Part of it goes here, this way. Gets processed into iron plates. Howdy, Flora. Welcome, welcome. And then these iron ingots get processed into steel pipes using the iron pipe alternate recipe. And then they both go in here to make portable miners. Completely forgot that you're doing slugless run for a bit. Slugs are not a bit. They are a lifestyle. one I intend to live to the fullest. But yeah, even in this like really small factory, Satisfactory, because it's very focused on, or rather, because it allows you to focus more on aesthetics. I can... Hold on a minute. Why aren't these powered? What? What? Huh? This should have power. Why doesn't this have power? What? Huh. That has power connected to it, no? It should. Huh. What is going on with that? This one has power. Why don't the others? What's going on here? By all means, this should be powered, because it's connected to a pole, which is providing power to other resources. So why isn't this? How is this one powered? It's connected to the same network. Hold on. Where is special? Alright, thank you very much for sticking around, Lemonade. I'll see you in a bit for movie streams. I won't be there. Mouse will be guest starring this time around. Power switch. Do I have... Organization. Light control panel. Put that there. So it connects to the lights. You connect there. Night mode. On. Night mode. What is going on here? Why is this like this? Is this just a visual bug? Huh. Okay. Let's set these back up real quick. Weird. Very weird. Okay. That can go there, you go there, you go there. Alright, now we have a little light on the situation. Nice. Anyway, what was I saying before I got sidetracked by that? I was talking about the aesthetics of this factory. Right, I have a... Even on a factory like this that, like, I will never visit... I can set up a bunch of stuff. I can make it look really pretty. I have a couple things here that I'm really proud of. Like this shutter gate. This does nothing. But it looks really cool, doesn't it? It looks like a shutter gate. And that's where all the resources come in. Little stuff like that is very fun. I have this little... Have a productive day. You can come in, grab some portable miners. If you ever wanted to do that, which you wouldn't at this stage of the game, but still. Stuff like that is very fun. Like, even building this billboard scaffold. to try and make it look like a real billboard scaffold does. It's a lot of fun. So long as everything, you know, so screwed up that humans value creative expression even when it's superfluous. For some reason, I'm upset that you used the phrase screwed up and then used a $10 word like superfluous at the end of your sentence. Pick a lane. Pick a lane. But yeah, a big aspect to consider with Satisfactory, between Satisfactory and Factorio, is the visual aesthetics and appeal of the factories you create. Factorio has a visual appeal, but it's not, to me, as enticing as what Satisfactory provides. Factories don't feel like they have as much of a physical presence and as much of that personal touch, right? Like, we built this big old oil rig, right? Very much form over function, right? We could very easily have just laid out a giant mess of refineries and not made it look like this at all, and it would still function exactly the same, right? And in Factorio, you wouldn't really have a choice. It's just function first, form basically never. The form is incidental to the function, rather. Whereas in Satisfactory, it's an active consideration in everything that you build. I really like alternate recipes in Satisfactory. They give a lot of reviry. I thought the phrase was $5 words. Sometimes you vary the amount in order to imply that words might be more expensive. The currency exchange rate isn't really exact, but, you know. As an English major, it is not only my obligation, but my right to play with language. Yeah, alternate recipes are a really fun aspect of this game. Generally, and I've said this multiple times before, I think that Satisfactory has one of the best open worlds in any game I've ever played. It clears Elden Ring every single day of the week. This is one of the first open worlds where I feel like exploration actually factors in to the main gameplay loop in every stage of the game. I have never felt like exploration has become obsolete or a chore or secondary to the experience. There is always something new for me to find. There's always another node for me to scout out, always a cool location to see and build a factory there. There is no end of the visual interest which Satisfactory provides, and the gameplay variance that the contrast between the exploration and the optimization provides. That is genuinely one of the most impressive aspects of this game to me. Is just the fact that this is not a randomly generated world. This is a pre-generated world that has secrets to discover, has interesting landmarks, has all of these things that you as the player can just sort of happen upon. And then they'll become just integral to the setup of your factory. Right? I think dropping inventory on death marred my playthrough. I just disabled that day one. Honestly. I just wish the train traversal has more roadblocks. I don't really enjoy building janky structures in midair to reach terrain. It's only funny the first times. Yeah, I do agree that that is one of the downsides. Like, you have to spend a lot of time. Like, a lot of time making some of the large-scale transportation in this game look good. Like, it is not as simple as Factorio, where you can just set down some rails and it just works, and it's really easy to make it look good. Trains especially. Trains especially are really hard to set up properly. I'm going to use this to travel directly back to where we just were. To give you an idea. Like, look at how much work I had to put into setting up these train tracks. I have 2 entire sets of blueprints just to make sure that my train tracks don't look bad. Right? One of them, this railroad highway, is not even complete yet, the scale of it. Right? But I had to make this giant modular blueprint that takes a ton of time, even with the blueprint, to get everything connected and working properly. It is a time sink to make things look good. And it can be very easy to just say, fuck it, and then set it up and have it look however it looks, and just let the pieces lie where they may. I set up and single train in my game and spent about an hour just trying to have it not float in midair in the dune desert. Yeah, trains are a big roadblock in terms of aesthetics. There's a lot to figure out when you finally unlock trains as to how you are going to navigate specifically changes in elevation. Changes in elevation are the most difficult thing to account for when you are building railroads. And roads in general. Generally speaking, with my designs, I either try to create a design where the change in elevation occurs on a spot that I don't need to account for. As you can see here, since these aren't entirely connected the whole way through, and how I have them set up there, the changes in elevation or curvature occur completely off of any main structure on a, sort of floating rail, but because these are spaced evenly apart, it doesn't look like it's just floating there, right? And then with something like this, with my railroad highway, I have specifically designed it in such a way, or rather specifically placed it in such a way, that I will not need to account for changes in elevation. Like, this highway will only ever exist over water. It will only ever exist over a large, wide, completely flat, and level surface that will not change in elevation. And that is a deliberate design choice. Right? Also, I really want to get this set up because I have this really cool, pipe transportation system set up underneath it. It's going to go really fast. Sorry, bitrate. I'm so sorry, bitrate. I'm so sorry, bitrate. Off we go. Redirect. Okay, we're fine. You can get some serious speed if you use hypertubes in fun ways. Way you describe the difference between Satisfactory and Factorio reminds me of Balatro and Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire is great, but meta visuals and overall presentation. I agree, yeah. I think Slay the Spire leaves... It's honestly a little ugly in some ways. I still think, personally, I love the visual aesthetic of it. It's very striking, it's very unique. It's not something that could be mistaken for anything else. And I really quite like the character designs of some of the characters you can play as there. Slay the Spire 2 looks great. Very excited for that to come out. Whereas Balatro is a good comparison. Maybe not as technically complex as something like Slay the Spire. Still plenty of depth to plumb in terms of the mechanical complexity, right? But it's not as involved of a run whenever you play Balatro as opposed to Slay the Spire. I think personally, dev art for Slay the Spire is ugly cute. I agree. Yes, there's a charm to it that can't be denied. Like the original sprites in Umineko. I personally love the original sprite work in Umineko. It is endlessly charming to me, and if I were playing it, I would probably use the original sprites myself. But I understand why the PlayStation 3 sprites exist, because I think to the average consumer, to the average person who might be trying to get into the game, the art style, so having an art style like that for a more serious story like Umineko is trying to tell, would be something that might get people to bounce off of it. right? So it's about managing your expectations in that case. Although with someone like me, who is more willing to suspend their disbelief and is more willing to engage with things in a, I would say, a more non-conventional manner, I'm perfectly fine with the original sprite art because I really like the basic, the base visual charm that it provides. Umi original art looks like it's from a Flash game. Kind of, yeah. Maybe that's why I enjoy it so much. It's sort of tickling that nostalgia center of my brain. And so Aspire, your health total stays the same between battles, so every battle matters as opposed to Balatro, where getting a good build makes you ignore everything but the shops. Yeah, I agree with that, yeah. Slay the Spire is more of a, you're considering the long game, whereas with Balatro, it's, can you get your run spooled up fast enough to not have to give a shit about just running your set? You know? In Slay the Spire, you have to play a lot more dynamically than you have to in Balatro. Balatro is very much like, figure out the hand you're playing, get the jokers in order to, supplement that hand, and then let the run play itself. The boss blinds, personally, I don't think the boss blinds really provide that much of a shakeup in terms of the overall challenge of the game, outside of specific run situations, like if you're playing, if you're doing a run that relies heavily on face cards and you get the hook. Or whatever whatever the one is called that debuffs all face cards. Like, if that happens, you're fucked. You know? Like, stuff like that can happen. But, for the most part, I feel like boss blinds don't really shake up the base gameplay loop all that much. Doesn't mean one game is better than the other, mind. Oh, no, not at all. Absolutely not. Doesn't mean either game is bad in the slightest, either. I think they are both hallmarks of the genre that are worthy of the respect that are, they're given. Right now, I'm definitely on a Balatro kick, because that's just because Balatro is on mobile, and I can play that during work breaks. Wish the bosses had increased involved challenge. Yeah. Yeah. At a certain point, you realize that the boss blinds don't really... Like, outside of a handful of them that can be really crippling, like, if I get a boss blind and it's like, heart cards are debuffed, even if I'm playing flushes, like, I just switch to a different flush. You know? The only ones that really force me to knuckle down are stuff like base molten chips are halved. And even then, I'm not changing my strategy all that much. It's just more tense because I'm going to be getting less points, and I have to rely more on, hoping that the jokers I've set up will get me the points that I need. Only so many challenges a boss blind can have in a game like Balatro. Yeah, and the deck design, the deck design is a good indicator of that as well. The character design in Slay the Spire it varies a lot. Like, how you play the game will be completely different depending on which character you are playing. Whereas, playing something like Abandoned Deck won't really vary that much from any other deck to some extent. The only deck that I have played so far that massively changes how I view the game and interact with it is Plasma. I think Plasma is the only deck that significantly changes the gameplay experience enough for me to consider it its own separate category of run. And that's because rather than being a modifier on the resources that you have available to you, it is something which fundamentally changes the base mechanics of the game. Hello. Hi, are we back? Hello. You'll never guess what happened. You'll never guess. Twitch decided that my stream was over because it couldn't find my stream key. That's my favorite bug. I love splicing VOD chunks together. It makes the uploading process that much more tedious. But since I'm a Satisfactory player, I guess that's just part of the Zen-like experience of streaming. Oh, God. Okay. Where was I? Right, I think I'm, like, several layers deep into yapping at this point. If you can't tell, I'm pretty good at fucking talking about nothing at all. You thought we were playing Satisfactory, but actually you have to do maintenance, right? And here I thought that maintenance was exclusive to Factorio. Did your OBS disconnect you? Yep, OBS disconnected me. It said cannot find the stream key, which is a really nice, really fun bug that's been happening. By the way, why are you a V2? You know, you can't just ask someone why they're a VTuber, chatter. To answer your question, because it's fun. I like drawing. And I like having that little extra level of visual flair to the streams. And I like drawing my little guy in different outfits. That's really all there is to it. There's no, like, complex reasoning behind it beyond that. I like having the little guy there. I think having some kind of visual presence on screen is, it's charming, in a way. Okay, you did it. All right, come on, come on. Nice! Nicely done. Nicely done. Great work. I'm so proud of you. For no reason at all, can you show the Mass Effect models? Oh, hold on. Sorry, just doing a little house cleaning real quick. My bad. I clicked on the wrong one. 1 second. Okay, here it is. Oh no, that's not the right one. The joke isn't funny. Shit. This one might work. Pay no attention to the heart-shaped decal on my underside. Let's see, what other fun ones do we have here? Other fun ones. I mean, this is really the coup de grace, as it were. Let's see. Transistor was so much fun. I wish I had some reason to use this one again. I really wish I had some reason to use this one again. This is one of my favorite models that I've ever made. This one turned out so well. Man, Transistor was good. But yeah, I would say the reason why I'm a VTuber is because it's a fun little angle to add to the streams. I'm certainly not committed to it. I didn't have like a debut. I'm not out here living the idle life. I don't have like a character I'm playing in any specific sense, like some of the professionals, right? So it's more just a fun little visual aspect, right? You made these? I did, yes! As a matter of fact, I stream myself making these. That's one of the things that one of the consistent streams that we have, is whenever we're playing a new game, we will make an outfit for it. Right now, for example, we're playing StarCraft 2. So, I have a model that I made for StarCraft 2, right? So every single time we play a new game, before we play it, we have an art stream where I make a model for my model, for my little guy, that's based on the game, and then I'll wear that while I'm playing it. It's very fun. I have it set up in what I call a kind of formulaic way, in the sense that it's distilled down to a very specific process and a very set sequence of events that I can easily and confidently stream myself doing without getting self-conscious about the artistic process. But there's still a lot of variance in how the sausage actually gets made. which makes those streams probably some of my favorite streams that I do, in all honesty, which is nice. It's nice to have an ability to engage with that hobby in that context. And also, sometimes it's very hard for me to, like, sit down and force myself to draw. So having a social context where I'm essentially forced to do it and exercise that muscle is quite nice. Oh, honey. No, 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 hey, 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 no, 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 are you okay? Okay. Oh my god. Don't scare me like that. Oh my god. You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. Drive safe, okay? Wow. Anyway, it's nice to have a situation in which I am, quote-unquote, forced to stretch that artistic muscle. And I like the way that I have it set up so that it's not that difficult of a process from start to finish. Gotta make those barriers toddler-proof. I really should, honestly. Still more effort than many large VTubers. Well, here's the thing. Here's one of the big things that you need to consider. Is most of the big VTubers are using live 2D, right? Rather than I'm using a program called VAutoTube. I'm not technically a VTuber if we want to get in the weeds of semantics. I'm what's considered a PNG tuber, right? Where rather than having a fully articulate model with face tracking and lip sync, I just have an image on the screen that changes states whenever my microphone detects input, right? So it's a much more simple process, which, as a result, permits me to make large-scale changes to my design on a regular basis without as much effort. With something like Live 2D, if they wanted to make a new outfit, not only would they need to create and design and render it, they would also need to make sure that it is separated and rigged and fully functional in ways that I would never have to consider. Let me just, tear down the curtain for a sec. I don't have legs. Or hands, for that matter. The model ends there because it's never going to move, unless I move it, from this spot. Right? Whereas with most live 2D models that you will see on a conventional VTuber, they modeled the whole body. And they'll usually move their model around on screen in some ways. Right? So there are a lot of considerations that I don't need to make when designing a model that a more traditional VTuber would. And it's because I don't have those sorts of constraints that I am actually able to create so much variance in my design. Right? Which, personally, that's not something I had planned whenever I started streaming. That's just sort of a byproduct of the format that I decided to use. And as I have come into my own with streaming, I found that to be a very valuable asset that I enjoy leveraging. Making a new model, but adding secret legs that will appear one day when you move the model. All right, well, filing that into my joke bank for later use. Thank you very much, Dolmec. Thank you very much for that one. I do plan on making a live 2D model at some point. Not as in like transitioning from a PNG tuber to a VTuber, but as part of the subscriber rewards for hitting the sub milestone during the streamiversary, I did say that I would make a live 2D model. Which there are a lot of rewards there that I really haven't gotten around to. Granted, streams have been a little slow, but there's some stuff that I still need to satisfy, and I'm working on it in the macro. What are your canonical hands? How many digits? Floating like head or fan art? For fan art considerations. Okay, so big stretch. Oh man. Generally speaking, I draw characters with 4 fingers, which is to say thumb and 4 fingers. So I don't know how you want to call that. I'm a long time ago. I got finger, thumb, 5 digits. Thank you. That's the best way to describe it. 5-digit hands, right? So that's how I draw my characters, which is to say that like that's what they would have. However, where is it? Where? Oh, wrong. I was pressing the wrong one. If you look at this, I am not Raymanning it. No, the arms are attached. The only thing that's not attached is the head, right? But if you look at the hands here, there's not a lot of care actually taken in drawing the digits of the hand. And if you look at some of the emotes we've made as well, you'll see that the digits are more abstracted, or in some cases, I do draw it with 4 digits rather than 5, right? But if I do draw it with 4 digits rather than 5, that is more for readability than design consistency. If you understand what I'm saying. Like, I would say, to answer your question, canonically, I have 5 digits. And I am not Raymanning it. I've always assumed that below the neck is just a normal body, and if we were to do a SpongeBob Gross Realism shot, the hands would be fleshy. I try not to think about it too much. Personally. I try not to consider the body underneath of the clothes very much. I think Jelly is a gloves kind of person, personally. You know what? Honestly, yes. I would probably say the design is wearing gloves, if only because I don't want to consider the flesh that this form may have. Didn't Wolf make an amazing 3D model for you? I think so, or at least they were making a 3D render of my model at some point. I don't know if they ever finished it. Let's see. What I hate most about VTubers is that they use the most generic mass market anime art style instead of something more unique. There's... I mean... I don't necessarily agree that that's something I hate. I do wish that there was a lot more visual diversity when it came to a lot of the designs in that sense. Although I'm personally someone who, when it comes to like the visual diversity of my character designs, that's something that I very heavily consider. So I'm not exactly an unbiased source for this conversation. And my art style is very non-conventional in that genre, rather, right? So I'm very much breaking away from the common crowd in that sense. But it's not necessarily a bad thing that they tend to go for the like traditional anime art style, and that's for a number of reasons. I mean, one, the most basic reason, at least whenever... There's 2 reasons. And they sort of tie into each other that I think they probably go for that art style. And the first is obviously that it has mass market appeal. Right? It's sort of this ubiquitously appealing design aesthetic that everyone is at this point on some level familiar with and can understand the design conventions of, and maybe easily draw fan art, or you can easily commission artists to make art and assets for the style because it's sort of this mother sauce of aesthetics, right? Did I use that term properly? That's a cooking term. Is that mother sauces? Is that what it is? Is that the correct term? Gotcha. Gotcha. It's just Dolmec is in chat, and suddenly I feel afraid. I didn't even realize there's a huge canyon under the roadway. That's so cool. Right? Right? This section of road is so much fun. And also, this is one of the things that I came over here to talk about. I was talking about how whenever you're making roads and railroads, you need to account for elevation changes. And as you can see with this design, I specifically had to make a blueprint that went slightly upwards so that I could account for that. What was I gonna say? But yeah, the reason I would say the anime art style is generally what you tend to see is because it has that mass market appeal, and it's an art style that a lot of people have tapped into and can easily tap into with enough effort, right? As opposed to if you were going for something like, say, Maddie's art style would be a great example. Madison Bake, creator of Magenta Horizon, right? Maddie's art style, I would say, is like nigh on impossible to replicate without considerable time spent studying the art style in the first place. I don't know why I said sauce. In the first place, right? Like, if I wanted to try and make something in the same vein as Maddie's art style, it would take considerable time and effort for me to take multiple sources of his work and figure out the design conventions that are at play and how I can play with them myself, right? As opposed to, if you have a VTuber in the traditional anime style, that's a really common style that a lot of people are already familiar with, right? So it has that mass market appeal, right? And because it has that mass market appeal, that's probably why it was selected whenever a large corporation like HoloLive was just getting started, right? Granted, it's a Japanese company as well, so they're obviously going to play into aesthetic that is, more closely related to the culture of origin. But, it goes without saying that if you are starting something as a business venture, you will probably want to tap into things that you assume or have information which suggests would be more successful, right? So you go for the mass market appeal there, because that's what sells. And then, because that's what sells, and because that's where the trend originated, and that's the well that we're pulling from, a lot of people probably are going to then, whenever they're making their own VTubers and the indie VTuber scene starts to blow up, follow those same traditions and guidelines that are set up by the base example, right? So it begins because there's mass market appeal, and it's perpetuated because there's mass market appeal. And it has mass market appeal because the style is, on its own, appealing and easier to replicate than something more unique. And you're also sticking to convention, right? Whereas, with someone like me, I'm going for a more non-conventional approach, so it suits my methods to have a more non-conventional design, right? That was a lot of words just to say that the anime art style is popular, so that's why people use it. Can you tell I have an English degree? So what you're saying is you're subverting expectations with your own art style, and therefore, you are the Game of Thrones Season 8 of PNG tubers? I've never seen Game of Thrones, but I trust you. So I'll say yeah. That's not true. I know how much of a fuck-up Season 8 was. That's basically the only thing. That all said, ooh, you want to make a conventionally attractive anime boy Renove PNG tuber so bad? When I make my live 2D model, should that be the bit? Like, instead of making this, but higher quality and fully rigged, should I, like, concoct in a lab some fucked up anime boy homunculus version of my base design? Shit, I have to do that now. That's what I have to do now. Fuck. That makes things so much harder for me. Do you know? Oh my god, I have to do lip sync then. I'm gonna have to do lip sync. Fuck. No. I mean, I can still incorporate the bag, right? I can still have the bag in there. Fuck. That was like a big part of it. That was a big part of why I thought it would be possible. Like, I don't have to change. Like, the only thing that changes is my eyes because my design doesn't have a mouth. Right? Charming hair clip that's just a small paper bag shit. That's probably... damn it. Damn it. Oh my god. I can't back out now, though. I can't. I have... Oh, I bumped my mic. Whoops. Sorry. I don't know if that made a loud noise. Oops. Let me just adjust that real quick. Sorry about that. I have to do that now. I have to. I was sitting here thinking it was just going to be easy street, and now I thought of a bit, and I have to commit to it. Fuck! Damn it, man. I'm going to need to get some help from Merrick and Flora on that one. It's part of a rebrand, Jelly? No. Listen. I will not fully switch to live 2D. Ever. Alright? What's going on? Honestly, absolutely nothing. I have just been yapping for like 2 hours straight. Now. I don't think I've gotten literally anything done. This has just been like Q&A yapping before Umineko starts. Which, granted, chat is certainly a lot more active than usual, which facilitates that. But, you know, I don't mind that one bit. I just hope that it's not too boring on a visual level. It's a gateway, good luck resisting. Yeah. But no, I do not think that I will ever fully switch away from the AutoTube to Live 2D, if only because a large part of my visual appeal and a large part of what I enjoy about streaming is these models. I love the modularity that the simplicity of the format affords me. Right? I love that I can just make this my model. And I don't need to rig it, I just need to make a drawing and add some simple animation to it. Right? Whereas if I were to switch to Live 2D fully, there would be a lot more work, there would be a lot more considerations to make. Thank you very much. Raid from Giga, I can't tell 6s and 8s apart on what is it, on OBS? One of the mods, if you could give a shout out to Giga6V. Thank you very much for the raid. Appreciate it. It's a 6? Gotcha. But hi, yeah, we've been yapping for literally 2 hours straight about absolutely nothing. The filibuster of streams, if you will. What more is there to explore? I feel like I'm missing an entire section of a factory that I haven't gone to in, like, forever. There's gotta be something I'm missing. This is generally where I spend most of my time just because I'm really proud of how this highway turned out. This is really fun to build. If you're here for spaghetti, you won't see it, sadly. Oh, well, hold on. I beg to differ. Hold on. I can show some spaghetti. Don't take that out of context. Okay, I was going to say I can show some spaghetti, and then I remembered I took a lot of care in making sure that this was all neat and organized. Fuck. Can't just ask someone if they're a weeb. Yeah, especially if it's true. You can't make them admit that on live Twitch.television. With some nice straight noodle. Yeah, some very carefully laid out fettuccine here. No? For no reason at all, what's your opinion on Monster Musume? Generational art, I would say. Not for the faint of heart, really. Which is a shame, because I think it could have mass market appeal if people were only open to such things. Have you been watching His and Her Circumstances? I haven't yet, no. I don't know where to watch it, and piracy is scary. You know? Right. You're also on record as referring to one of the characters as a, quote, cuckfish. That's correct, yes. I believe if you were to check the text itself, you'll find that I have a purely textual basis for doing so. In fact, I might go so far as to say that it is an undeniable textual basis for doing so. Open to xenophilia. Mass Effect fans exist. I'm pretty sure xenophilia does have mass market appeal. Alright. Listen to me. Listen to me. Look me directly in my eyes when I tell you this. Okay? Look me directly in my fucking eyes when I tell you this. Mass Effect aliens are weak sauce. Alright? Mass Effect aliens are fucking weak sauce. Okay? Weak. If BioWare weren't cowards, you could romance an Elcor. But because they are, and they have to stick to stuff that's just the most bland, most easily marketable sex appeal possible, they only give you the humanoid races as an option. And those humanoid races are, what if we had a person and they had one weird alien feature? Oh, wow, how revolutionary, BioWare! What will you think of next? Elcor, yep. I think they would be very passionate and honest lovers. There would not be any miscommunication in that relationship. I can tell you that much, for sure. Elcor do have the most romantic whispers. And they even have tone indicators, so you'll never misunderstand whether they're flirting or not. Doesn't know I'm not the only one annoyed at aliens being so human-looking all the time. Yep. Yep. I'm also just... Oh no, we made monosex space elf so innovative. No, not quite. They made monosex space elf succubus. Don't forget that part, that's very important to their lore. It's a very important distinction. They have the mental brain waves that make them look sexy to you no matter what. Really funny how Elcor have no animations because they don't fit the same humanoid skeleton every other race uses. Yeah, video game production pipelines are a little fucked though, so I don't have any grudges with that. I chose the correct channel indeed. Glad to know I've validated your bad choices. God, and don't even get me started on the fucking characters. Oh, I just remembered the fucking what is it? The Asari nightgown, whatever the fuck with the overalls. Oh my god. God, I hate BioWare design. God, I hate BioWare design so much. I so desperately wish that Joe remembered anything about Mass Effect so that I could have someone to talk shit about it to. God. Okay, again, maybe the reason why I'm so disappointed in Mass Effect is just that gamers got my expectations up, alright? Much in the way that I expected Brandon Sanderson to be literature because he was so highly acclaimed. I was expecting Mass Effect to be this once-in-a-generation kind of experience. And then it was just, like, good sometimes. And a lot of the stuff that people thought was good about it, I vehemently disagreed about. Have you seen that one Koru post about Brandon Sanderson? I have not, no. Gamers do tend to do that, just like Sanderson, just like Steensgate. That's true. That's true. But I'm gonna need 3 more. Wait, no, that's 3 reasons. Fuck, that's plenty. Like, I don't hate Mass Effect. I just feel like I was supposed to love it a lot more. And the only explanation I can really get is, like, when it was coming out at the time, it was the best thing ever. And it's like, yeah, dude, I'm pretty sure whenever they invented unsalted bread, that also fucking ruled at the time. But now we have the technology to make things good. It's definitely a product of its time, yes. That said, the Citadel in Mass Effect 3 is peak. The Citadel DLC in Mass Effect 3 is the best Mass Effect has ever been and ever will be ever again. It is a perfect dilution of everything appealing about the series, and it will never reach those heights ever again because it thinks it is prestige media when it's really a B-tier sci-fi action movie. All right? That is my nuclear take about Mass Effect, is that it is not to be taken seriously. I'm not saying that as in like, oh, it's parody. This isn't my Joe saying Xenoblade 2 is a parody game. I am saying that I think Mass Effect is best when it does not try to think that it is making grand sweeping statements about humanity and our place in the world. I think it's action schlock. And that's not derivative. Sometimes you just have action schlock and it's great. Alright? I think Mass Effect 1 could be taken somewhat seriously. It's true to its awkward roots, though. Citadel is the best in the series as actual... Yeah, I agree with that, yes. I think Mass Effect 1, it's establishing the world. It takes itself very seriously. It's pretty grounded. Paragon Renegade isn't as flanderized yet, so it's not just good thing, bad thing. It's a very nuanced game that appears like it's going to try and tell a very nuanced, complex story. And then Mass Effect 2 happens, and you're playing Ocean's 11 in space. And it's not like... How can I phrase this? Ocean's 11 in space was so much better than any of the serious shit that they were trying that they shouldn't have tried to do anything else after that. Right? Like, Mass Effect 2 is this huge tone shift where there are stakes, right? There are big things happening, but you're very much working with a character-focused narrative that knows it can put, like, it can slam the funny pedal every once in a while, and you're working... It's a world that does not need to take itself as seriously, because it has faith that when it wants to go for those emotional beats, it has enough of your attention that it can at least be afforded some respect. Right? Whereas, you get to something like Mass Effect 3, and I don't know if it was just... I mean, obviously, the writing timeline is a big consideration. Like, that game was very much rushed out by executives and management. It is a crisis of management that Mass Effect 3 turned out the way that it did, right? So obviously some of the tone, like, if there is anything that is going to be inconsistent in poorly managed writing, it is going to be the tone. Especially when you are dealing with so many writers, it's very hard to keep that consistent, right? So, when Mass Effect 3 rolls in, and it's sort of taking itself more seriously than it ever has, and I have to tone shift from fucking Kasumi in Mass Effect 2, who is just actually insane. Like, the best criminal ever, who's so good she doesn't even have a criminal record, right? Or fucking Garrus Archangel Vicarian, who's been working solo as a mercenary, taking down all the gangs in one... is a one-man army, and I have to go to that, or from that to the Reapers are here and everyone is dying. Please take us seriously. Please, 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 please take us seriously. And then in the middle of all of that, Garrus says something about calibrations, and I'm also supposed to go, he said the line! It's impossible for me to get into the right headspace. Right? And so when Citadel comes in, and it has this schlocky action plot that is more character-focused, like Mass Effect 2 was, you go and you realize, like, oh shit, this is the sauce that was missing. This is what was wrong was the levity and the proportionality of the stakes for this cast. Right? Like, Commander Shepard is not, like, a leader of humanity level of charisma. Commander Shepard is, like, your plucky squad leader. He is not, like, an icon of a species. Even though that is eventually what he becomes. In my mind, he is just, like, your charismatic figurehead to a group of disparate specialists. Commander Shepard is at their best. Hi, Jelly. Wanted to ask about plans on D2 video you're making. Hope I got the correct term from the Helldiver show. Yes, I am making a Destiny 2 video. That's one of the milestones. As far as my plans for no power. How did I miss this? What? Interesting. See, so for the Destiny 2 video, this is something that I haven't actually talked about in a while, and it's something that I need to talk about because it'll give me more focus whenever I actually start recording my footage again. Well, I'll finish the Citadel topic because some other people are still talking about it. Actually never played Citadel because they did a weird thing. I don't think Citadel was good enough to redeem 3 as a game. Still bitter about the whole game, pretty much. I agree. I think Citadel is fantastic. It is the best Mass Effect content that exists. However, it is inside of the worst Mass Effect content that exists. Right? It cannot redeem the game, but in a vacuum, it is a 10 out of 10 Mass Effect experience. I have no notes whatsoever. It's perfect. Right? But because it exists in the context of Mass Effect 3, it will always be scarred by that association. Right? So that's generally my thoughts on the Citadel. As far as Destiny 2, real quick pivot to a different sci-fi media that I don't fully respect for a litany of reasons. Most of them metatextual, which is the primary point of analysis or angle of analysis for my video. Destiny 2, specifically I'm making a video on the final shape, is a game which fundamentally can never conclude. It is like the live service model. Right? It is the one which all the figureheads in the industry point to say, we're making a live service game, make me a Destiny 2. Make me a game that is as successful, has as broad of appeal as this live service model. Right? And so, fundamentally, Destiny 2 as a game and as a franchise can never end, because a conclusion of Destiny 2 is antithetical to its very existence. Right? If Destiny 2 ends, it has failed, because it needs to exist to make infinite money. Right? So, with that perspective in mind, the final shape is kind of just impossible to reconcile. If that makes sense. Like, this isn't to say that the final shape is not good on a mechanical or perhaps even on a narrative level to some degree. I played the final shape, and as someone who's been playing Destiny 2 for years, I quite enjoyed the final shape. Right? I think it is genuinely a culmination of all the efforts which have been put into Destiny 2 over the years. It is a triumphant celebration of the ways in which Destiny 2 has succeeded. And unfortunately, that also means that it is a resounding funeral dirge for all the ways that it cannot succeed. Because it is impossible to write a conclusion to a story which by its very nature must never conclude. Right? It is its own anticlimax and could never be anything else. Right? Even just from a basic narrative level, as soon as you finish dealing with the Witness, who is the big bad of all of Destiny to that point, the game immediately goes, well, you still need to play the video game, so guess what? Here's some loose ends we need to tie up. There is always another threat, right? There is always something more. Your work can never be complete because we still need to make money, right? Witness is not the most big bad. That's the win. It's the fucking WoW sickness, WoW illness problem. Yeah. It's like, oh no, we actually just. The fucking, I don't remember any of the proper nouns from Warcraft. The Burning Legion only existed because bad things were going to happen, and we needed a Burning Legion to stop the bad things. Oh no! Right? It's like, there must always be a bigger bad. That's just how power scaling works. Destiny Mobile looks promising, at least. Have you seen it? I have seen it, and I think what makes it work is that it is dealing with a period of Destiny history which is more finite in the sense that, like, it is a period of time in the universe which has already taken place and has ended. But there's still plenty of room to explore that world. It's taking place... I don't think it's the Golden Age, no. I believe it is post-collapse. It's taking place in the Dark Ages. Destiny Rising is non-canon, sadly. Honestly, that's better. That's good. The main metatextual problem I have with Destiny 2 is the final shape is that it is a story about a concluding a story which can never end by its very nature, right? And there are a lot of aspects within the narrative that also seem to reinforce that flaw. Like, it's a very weird situation where it is a game. How can I phrase it? This is always the hard part to put into words. Destiny 2, the final shape, is a narrative conclusion about stopping a narrative conclusion to Destiny. Right? It is about stopping the final shape. It is about stopping the end of all things, which is inherently pitched to you as some form of universal equilibrium. It is like a settling of all things into their rightful place, where it will just be finite and complete. Right? Which... there is some room, perhaps, to say, then, that by the very nature of Destiny 2 being unable to conclude, there might even be some ludonarrative consonance there. Because you're playing the game that can never end, and you are fighting against the ending of the game. Right? Because the final shape happens, Destiny ends. Right? So there is some meta-narrative overlap in that sense. However, that is taking place in the context of the conclusion of the narrative. You are fighting against a conclusion to get to a conclusion, and that conclusion cannot be conclusive. Because the game must always continue. I think the inherent design of live service games are the issue here, not Destiny. They gotta keep going, and new and more evil being is always on the horizon. That is the entire premise of my argument, yes, is the live service design model is antithetical to the concept of storytelling. That is my really... that is like my nuclear take. Alright? A live service game if it is successful, should never end. And a story that does not end is not a proper story, in my opinion. Stories fundamentally require, from my point of view, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And a live service game necessitates that the story does not ever conclude. You're a video essay listener. Do you remember anyone quoting Francis Fukuyama? I do not know who that is, no. Which is why I'm happy the Light versus Dark saga at least has an ending now with the Witness dead. That's the thing, though. Like, it kind of has an ending, but we still have those loose ends that we're tying up in the form of the episodes, and those haven't really been tied up either. Right? And also, as the player, you will never be able to feel that the saga has concluded, because you're always going to be replaying the game in circumstances that, if we were to follow the narrative consequences of the Witness being defeated, should never occur. Like, there's no reason to be fighting half of the factions in the game at this point. Right? They are like splinter cells of small subgroups of a faction that remain of half these people, who would scatter once the Witness was defeated. Right? Like, there's no power vacuum to fill. You're forever playing content that, by the narrative consequence of what has happened in the final shape, just shouldn't exist anymore. Right? Do you think there's a difference between long-standing narrative with multiple games and MMO stories like the one in Destiny? Absolutely, yes. Yes. The primary difference, I would say, though, is, like, one of them can end. Like, Mass Effect can end. The story of Commander Shepard can end. There can be a finite... There can be finality to something that is a product that ships, and it has a story, and that story plays out, and they have to write an ending for it. Right? But an MMO, by its very nature and business model, cannot end unless it fails. There can be arcs which have their own beginning and ending, but they always have to build on each other. There can never be a full stop, the end, in a live service model. Because a full stop constitutes failure. Interesting parallel between this and real books with endings and webcomics that never end for monetary purposes. Yes! I mean, in essence, they are the same. It's just that a live service game wears its infinality as a hallmark of the genre. Right? At any point, someone can pick up a book which has ended and continue writing for it. Right? You can always continue. But you don't need to in other formats. A live service game is a shark. It must keep swimming or it dies. It can never, ever, ever be at rest, or else it is done. For sure done. Right? So there's a lot of conflict between that as an overt business model. I just realized that lifestyle games and live service games are basically the same thing. If I'm not mistaken, they are two terms for the same exact thing. Like, a lifestyle game is just, like, the PR angle of a live service game. They want it to be a game that you play forever. Let's see here. Citadel showed us the truth of the future of Mass Effect. It will be Shepard clones all the way down. Just make the shark up thing on the spot because that's beautiful. I did. Yes, thank you. Sometimes a metaphor just falls into your lap and you gotta use it. Anything else you discussed specifically besides the live service issues? I haven't gotten into, like, the nitty-gritty of actually scripting it. Thank you. I'm very proud of this swimming pool. Thank you. I haven't gotten into the nitty-gritty of actually scripting it. There's sunbathing slug chans. One of them has a tan, which I'm very happy about. But I honestly, like, talking about the live service stuff is, like, the main crux of my narrative argument, right? I'm trying to make a very focused point with my Destiny 2 video essay. And it is just going to be, as keenly as I can focus it, a metatextual analysis of how the format of the game completely ruins the narrative. I wouldn't say completely ruin. I feel like I can't make any definitive statements until I have the full thing out in front of me. But the general idea is that there is a conflict occurring between the real life fun, like, aspects of the game, in that it is a live service game which can never end, and the narrative goals of the final shape, which are concluding something that can never end. Never built extra pretty and satisfactory. Somehow it never came to mind. Time to expand my base with pretty pool. Yep, this was a really fun build, actually. I need to expand. This entire island was designed to be like a Slugchan paradise. And I only ever really built the pool and one male living space with pub. But I want to set up a bunch of really cute stuff. Like, again, I have all these slugs in their chairs. They're sunbathing. You got a suntan on this one. I got the pool, which is actually like this little tide pool here, and then I just built concrete around it to encase it, so it looks like you have this little pool, and you can walk into it. Right? Ladder over here, so you can climb out. Diving board that I made using inverted wall ramps stacked together, so you can climb up, dive on in. Lifeguard tower with first aid, and of course, lifeguard on duty. And hidden uranium on the beach. I mean, I wouldn't really call it hidden. Oops. That's when I found out that you can only flush things one item at a time, not one stack at a time. This is a fun discovery, that. Do I have a massive power plant? I do, yes. Let me head on over to it right now. I plan on building another one, most likely in the Blue Crater, because that's just, like, the power plant place. But I built this big old oil rig, and its main export is power. Imagine if you become the Satisfactory YouTuber if you start uploading your creations separately. I don't think I'm on that level. Only there was a building where you could mass sync objects. That's the thing, you can't sync radioactive materials. I think. Right? You can't sync uranium, can you? So in other words, the idea of... let's see, hold on. The idea of a narrative and the idea of a live service model are adversary. And since the service model aspect takes precedent, the narrative has to be shit. That's genuinely an excellent summary of my point. Yes. That is a very impressive summation of what I said. Thank you very much for that. That's a really good way of putting it. Yes. The two are in conflict, and one naturally takes precedent. Joe's telling us his address and social security number. All right, let's raid him. Let's raid /Joe Anderson JPH. Alrighty, that's going to be all for today's Satisfactory Saturday. It's time for Umineko Saturday. with Joe. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening to me yap. It's been a pleasure. I'll be back tomorrow with more StarCraft 2. Thank you very much, Alex, for the tier 1 sub. Appreciate it. Have a good one, folks. Be nice. Although clearly I don't need to tell you to. See ya.